Welcome back to Italian Innovators. This is Luca Cottini, Associate Professor of Italian Studies at Villanova University. Florence has always been one of the key destinations of the Grand Tour in Italy. From the trips of American and European humanists in the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries to study abroad programs today, Florence will always be an all-time favorite place to visit. Many U.S. universities have a base in the city, or a villa like Georgetown, NYU, or Harvard. And many local schools or institutes serve an ever-growing population of foreign students. Among them, I'd like to recommend the International Studies Institute, ISI, located in the 15th century Rucellai Palace. We'll talk about it later. Of course, the visitors of Florence are looking for the attractions of its golden age, from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. Dante scholars hunt for echoes of the Divine Comedy at every corner, and references are often posted in signs over the city streets or buildings. Art historians find their haven in the churches or museums, where works by such artists as Fra Angelico, Giotto, Masaccio, Ghiberti, Botticelli, Brunelleschi, and Michelangelo are disseminated. Italians often stop at the Church of Santa Croce, where the tombs of great national figures are located. In case you're wondering, that's where you can find the burial places of Machiavelli, Galileo, and Michelangelo. Keep in mind that Santa Croce is a sort of an Italian equivalent of the Pantheon in Paris or Westminster Abbey in London. While these facts about Florence might be familiar to you, less known instead is the modern history of the city, which was actually Italy's capital between 1865 and 1870. Until 1865, for the first 4 years of unified Italy, the capital was Turin. The capital then was moved to Rome after Italy invaded the city and took it away from the previous papal control. The Italian army breached into the walls of Rome on September 20th, 1870, through the gate of Porta Pia. And this is also why there are so many piazzas or roads in the peninsula named after September 20th. Now, in addition to its tenure as Italy's capital, Florence was also another sort of capital of leather, even before the establishment of Gucci in 1921, and of Italian photography. You might want to know here that there is also a Gucci museum in Florence, which is worth visiting, but that is a topic for another episode. Today instead, and this is my first assignment for you, I invite you to visit the Alinari Museum of Photography, which is located near the train station in Piazza Santa Maria Novella, across the stunning facade of its 15th century church. The Alinari Museum, which was previously located in the Rucellai Palace that we mentioned earlier, hosts an immense collection of vintage photography and contains works by master photographers like Beato Fenton, Macpherson, Naya, Nunes Weiss, Primoli, and Sommer. As stated in the name, the museum honors the Alinaris, a family of photographers who made the city one of the world capitals of photography in the 19th century. Today, I want to talk about the founder of the firm, Leopoldo Alinari, who pioneered photography in its early age, and his son, Vittorio, who turned it instead into an industrial art. Leopoldo opened the Alinari shop in 1854 with his brothers Romualdo and Giuseppe. Back then, Italy was not even a country, and photography was a relatively recent technology. The French inventor Daguerre launched it in Paris 13 years earlier in 1839, presenting it as the culmination of two paths evolving in parallel: of optical studies, since the 15th century discovery of perspective, and chemical research, since the 18th century discovery of photoimpressionable substances. In its early phase, in the mid-19th century, photography was the dominion of chemists and professionals who experimented different image-fixing techniques, moving from the daguerreotype to heliotype, talbotype, ferrotype, collodium, and albumen. The adoption of gelatin and the serial production of dry plates since the early 1870s shortened the procedure to obtain a photograph and replaced earlier techniques which entailed long exposure time, heavy equipment, and specific development and image fixing skills. Over this period, photography moved to a larger pool of users, anthropologists, explorers, scientists, and humanists, and the photographic instrument started to apply to geography, science, anthropology, and historical memory. Driven by a frantic impulse to see and chart both the space of human knowledge and Western influence, photographers unveiled the world's oldest cities, so in the surveys of Rome and Athens, its most remote sites, as in Beato's catalogues of Calcutta or Japan, and its most impervious spots, as in the photos of the Alps by the Piedmontese politician Quintino Sella. It is at this time that Italy became a privileged site for foreign and local photographers. The photographic charting of its ruins and picturesque views, vedute, assembled the nation's cultural patrimony into an ideal miniature museum, yet it also fixed its stereotypical image, often bereft of human figures and made of recurring Mediterranean elements like trees, olives, beaches, panoramas. At the same time, thanks to its objectivity and reproducibility, photography applied to science and anthropology, providing the vision of physical phenomena, social categories, and various ethnicities. Photographs became valid tools for police identification, record-keeping, and judiciary evidence, as well as for the systematic classification or visual profiling of diverse groups. Lastly, photography shaped a new memory of the past and the present, by surveying Italy's historical sites and framing the vision of current events. So photographers recorded the wars of Italian Risorgimento, so the independence process which took place from 1848 to 1870. Yet also photographers manipulated them by erasing any sign of combat, violence, or death, or by counterfeiting their future memory. For example, the 1862 image of General Garibaldi with a wounded leg actually is the first fake photograph of history. And the 1870 image of Italian soldiers posing on the ruins of Porta Pia, we mentioned it earlier, was in actuality taken on September 21st, 1870, so the day after the breach. In this context, Leopoldo Alinari became a leading figure in contemporary photography, mainly because of the quality and the systematic nature of his collections and catalogs of monuments, ethnicities, varieties of fruits and flowers, costumes. Today, the Alinari collection represents an invaluable archive of early photography, as well as a fascinating time machine, offering through its images the possibility to really travel in Italy's history. In this sense, Leopoldo Alinari can be seen as the founding father of Italian photography, along with his Florentine competitor Giacomo Brogi. Leopoldo's impact, however, is not limited to his production, but also extends to his capacity to pioneer and legitimize photography as an artistic and social language, rather than a merely mechanical act. Leopoldo hosted the first display of photographs in Italy at the National Exposition of Florence in 1861, and left an indelible mark on a group of Tuscan painters known as the Macchiaioli, painters like Lega, Fattori, Signorini, who instead of mourning the lost capacity of painting to faithfully imitate reality, photographs could do it much better, began instead to adopt photography as a powerful aid for art and as a creative source. They developed, indeed, not just an anti-imitative technique based on color impressions or patches, the so-called macchia, often obtained through the blurring of photographs, but also invented a new language aimed at capturing the mood of forms in lighting effects rather than imprecise contours. Leopoldo suddenly died in 1865 when he was only 33, and his brothers Giuseppe and Romualdo took over the business, and they became vital actors in the Florentine photographic scene. In the organization of the first Italian exposition of photography in 1887, and in the foundation of the first Italian Photographic Society in 1889. This was a special time of global growth in the industry. Just to give you a sense, in 1888, the year before the establishment of the Photographic Society, the American founder of Kodak, George Eastman, had in fact released the first portable camera, Kodak #1, and also a new model of photo development based on the newly invented photographic film and advertised in the famous campaign, "You press the button, we do the rest." Eastman's innovations turned cameras into accessible tools for entertainment for a larger public and photographs into industrial items. In this sense, the initiatives and the magazine of the Italian Photographic Society seized a new moment of growth and vitality for the photographic industry, and not only fashioned a new market for photography in Italy, but also spread a new idea of photography as culture, as documented in the collaboration of photographers with local writers and journalists. A year after the Society's foundation, however, a significant fact stirred an even more momentous change in the history of Italian photography, as in 1890, over a short period of time, both Romualdo and Giuseppe Alinari suddenly died. After their deaths, their nephew Vittorio, son of the founder Leopoldo, took over, and over the following decades, Vittorio would transform the company from a family-sized workshop into a world-renowned business, and would redefine photography itself from an exclusive dominion of experts, painters, or scientists to a mass-scale social practice, from a form of mechanical reproduction to art itself. In the early 20th century, photography thus became an industrial phenomenon and moved from a dominion of a few professionals to an amateur practice, as confirmed by the increasing number of photographic clubs, the rapid spread of cameras, and the growing demand for specialized magazines or informative handbooks. Portable cameras became trendy items for fashion, leisure, and traveling, thanks to their lightness, clarity, and instantaneity. Meanwhile, the demand for photographic images grew exponentially since the 1890s, as photographs began to appear in Italian publications and periodicals, representing events, scoops, and celebrities with immediacy and freshness. So kind of an early version of Instagram or Twitter. In parallel with the expansion of tourism, photographs started to be produced as separate artifacts in the form of postcards, launching a new format of visual-verbal communication and also a new industry. Thanks to the increased facility of the photographic experience and the mass circulation of photographic images, serialized photography then became a powerful culture maker, extending its visual knowledge to the masses, fashioning new trends or styles, yet also imposing its uniform standards through ready-made portraits, postcards, or event renderings. It is in these same years that the entrepreneur and photographer Vittorio Alinari reshaped the father's company, defining not only a new business model for photography, but also a new photographic style. As an entrepreneur, Vittorio defined a new space of industrial photography in relation to publishing by steering the firm's production from decontextualized collections of images of ethnicities, costumes, flowers, fruits, and monuments to more sophisticated editorial projects. In a way, he positions his atelier as a global industry of photographic images by establishing compositional standards for its pictures, by assembling an archive of art photographs for retail, and by directing his publications to foreign markets. The prize obtained at the 1900 Universal Exposition of Paris for his photo reproductions of artwork at the Uffizi Gallery paved the way for several commissions of photographic works by other museums in Athens, London, and Dresden. In another way, Vittorio linked photography to documentarism, travel, and art by producing illustrated volumes on Florence, the Italian Renaissance, or Italian landscapes, and publishing the journal Rivista d'Arte. In particular, he reconfigured industrial photography as a modern form of art through the crafting of photo books as decorative objects in limited run and careful composition, and also through the use of the photographic lens as an aesthetic tool to reinvent literary and pictorial masterpieces. So in 1902, Vittorio launched the project of a photographic book on Dante's Inferno in celebration of the firm's 50th anniversary, and a few years later, he released 2 volumes of photographic illustrations of Boccaccio's Decameron and of the sights of Dante's Divine Comedy. As a photographer, Vittorio Alinari also defined a new visual style, moving from static documentary reproductions of monuments to their dynamic fictionalizations. As a way to understand Alinari's work in setting photographs in motion and breaking their immobility or conventionality, I recommend you, and this is your second assignment for today, to check out one of his images from the early 1900s, which is also reproduced in my book, The Art of Objects, and it's entitled Stairs of Palazzo Vecchio and View of the Duomo. The shot captures a gentleman climbing the stairs leading to the tower top in Palazzo Vecchio, and suddenly seeing in front of him the open view of Brunelleschi's dome in the cathedral. The photographic image conveys the dynamism of the photographic view and the phantasmagoria of seeing through the subject's unprecedented perspective, which allows a new space of beauty and wonderment in an otherwise renowned document. You can find many more images by Vittorio Alinari in the online archive at www.alinari.it. The story of the Alinaris ends in 1921, when the company was bailed out by a group of 97 Florentine investors, thus becoming Italy's first public company. The Alinari legacy, however, continues. The Alinari collection is now one of Italy's most cherished cultural patrimonies, both in quantity, almost 3.5 million images, and in quality, as it allows us to see the past from within through the contingent present of the photographic image. More than this, the collection provides us with a special gift, that of re-enabling us to rethink about the value of the photographic gesture in our age of photographic instinctiveness and abuse. Through the eyes of great photographers, we are indeed led to see more of reality, its details, elements, particles, and inner movements. The heart and the art of photography lie exactly in this empowered ability to see. Too often, instead, when we take a picture, we don't even see the reality in front of us or engage with it, as we instinctively reach for our smartphone in our pockets. I challenge you to remember the last time you didn't pull out your phone in front of an important event or beautiful landscape. In this sense, and this is the phrase for today, to really observe a subject for a few seconds, keep in mind that 150 years ago it took 10 minutes to take a photo, or to dwell a few minutes on the Alinari pictures from the past, can allow us to understand not only that our present clicks will be the past at some point, but also, and here is the Italian phrase of the day, that un'immagine vale più di 1000 parole. Truly an image, when is well taken, is an open window to a new space, and as the sentence says, is worth more than 1,000 words. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or at the webpage www.italianinnovators.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Luca Cottini or at ITA Innovators for more updates, content, and information about the second series of the podcast coming September 2019. You can also follow Italian Innovators on Facebook and Instagram. Arrivederci e alla prossima.